talk about some of the issues raised in that report. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today, sir.
Good morning.
Well, yeah, that's what we're focusing on these days, the economy. How to get us out of this, quote, doldrums that we are in at the moment. But those measures that has just been announced, how far-reaching do you think it will be?
They are temporary measures. Some of them are quite diversionary. And the people in government have not addressed the root of the crisis, which is the dollarization of the economy. Whatever palliatives that are announced will be eaten up by the dollarization of the economy. And you're not in control. As long as these guys in government are not prepared to strengthen the Naira, to make the Naira the only legal tender in Nigeria, you are not going to go far. And, I mean, speaking from a legal perspective, I've had to sue the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Federal High Court, because Section 16 of the Central Bank Act provides, or has imposed a duty on the Central Bank to fix and determine the rate of the Naira vis-a-vis other currency. So there is no provision for floating the Naira. No, there's no provision. It's illegal. To say, oh, the value of the Naira will be determined by market forces. That is not there in the law.
It's not an economic principle that they're adopting?
No! Section 20 of the Central Bank Act provides that the only legal tender in Nigeria shall be, Section 20, subsection 1, the currency notes issued by the Central Bank, only the Naira. Section 20, subsection 5 provides anybody who spends any other currency in Nigeria without the approval of the Central Bank has committed an offense and shall be prosecuted. The penalty is 6 months imprisonment. So you ask yourself, why does a government, a Nigerian government, allow properties to be sold in dollars, rents to be collected in dollars, some school fees to be paid in dollars, and everybody looking for dollars? You want to go to Mecca and Jerusalem, even to pray weekly in Mecca, you look for dollars. Everybody attending conferences abroad, you look for dollars. So there's so much pressure on the dollar. All manners of goods. You look for dollars to import them, including goods that are produced in Nigeria. So if the government is desirous to address the distortions in the economy, I have to say, sorry, what is my business with dollars in Nigeria? In fact, if I had my way, and I've said it on this forum before, I will sell oil in Naira. Because it's ridiculous for you as a country to sell your product in dollars. Now, you now have to change dollars to Naira to distribute monthly. So these are the problems. So for me, the government is not addressing this problem.
But when you say that no one shall have the powers to do so except authorized by the CBN. Yes. So if CBN then authorizes a chunk of those other transactions, it means that we are within the law.
The government has never, the Central Bank has never authorized. When I took up the suspended Central Bank government, I think in 2015 or 2016, why are you aligning? It came out publicly. You can Google. Nobody is authorized to spend dollars in Nigeria. And that is the position of the law. But what is going on now? How can you pay school fees in dollars?
How widespread is this practice? I mean, people will say that maybe that is happening at a level that is beyond the average Nigerian. How widespread is this practice, you
Very,
think?
very widespread. The ordinary people are victims of the distortion of the economy. I was in Benin Republic last week with my lawyers. We had an annual retreat. And we spend Naira in Cotonou. Yes. We spend Naira and CFA. We didn't spend a cent or a dollar.
Yes, but we know that. I mean, that's Benin Republic.
The same thing going on in Niger.
Yeah. So the countries that neighbor Nigeria, we know that in those countries, the Naira is still accepted because of the level of trade that they do with Nigeria. And I know that when we had this Naira scarcity issue, it was one of the problems, one of the things that was highlighted, people talking about how, you know, we do not know how much Naira we really have in circulation when you look at the fact that, you know, other countries are also trading in our own currency. And would like, that's one of the points that was given for it. But in terms of, you know, when you say the dollarization of the economy, isn't that happening at a level that is beyond the average Nigerian? And isn't this as an effect of the fact that we're not really producing much and we rely heavily on importation?
No. You know what these guys say? I mean, the central bank says, we want to float the Naira. And the implication is that floating a currency is anchored on supply and demand. We do not supply dollars because the only product that really earns dollar is oil. And the bulk of it now, a lot of oil is stolen. So the government will have to try. How do we stop stealing of oil? Nigeria is the only oil-producing country. We are big-time thieves. Big-time thieves. Steal oil. 2, why should we allow any transaction in Nigeria, right, to be, you know, valued in dollars in your country? And I'm saying, under the law, the legal tender in Nigeria are the currency notes issued by the central bank. And there's no amendment to that law. So I'm not talking politics, I'm talking law. So, and I've challenged the central bank.
Yeah, but isn't this one of the cause and effect of globalization?
No.
Some people argue that that's what
these guys who are talking of globalization are controlling their own economy. Every day. They ask you here, oh, trade liberalization, allow everything to come in. But China and US, United States of America, are fighting every day over what should come to our country and what should not be allowed. But here, IMF and World Bank, they are pressing the government. Oh, you are looking for the value of the currency. For 45 years, we have been told by these imperialist institutions, the Naira is overvalued. So they have been devaluing the currency through dollarization. So the Bank of America recently said the Naira is now undervalued. But the guys in the central bank are still devaluing the currency. The Naira is looking for its value. I beg your pardon. When I was an undergraduate, the exchange rate was 60 kobo to a dollar. Today, it is about 1,000 naira to a dollar. Except we are told the central bank has now looked for $3 billion. Is it the business of the central bank NNPC to run the central bank?
Yeah, but Mr. Falana, can we really say that floating the Naira is tantamount to dollarization?
Because, for sure.
But many will say floating the Naira means that, yes, the value of the currency will be determined by forces of demand, supply, interest rates, inflation, and it's not just against the dollar. It's against any convertible currency, the pounds, the rand, whichever one, not just against the dollar.
Tambale, I didn't write the Central Bank Act, but Section 16 says it shall be the duty of the central bank to fix the exchange rate of the Naira vis-a-vis other currency, not market forces. You know, it's like this. It's like what they were telling us. They say, oh, the price of fuel shall be determined by market force. So it's not possible. It's not possible.
So can the CBN wake up tomorrow and say, well, the exchange of the Naira against the dollar is 300?
That is the duty of the central bank. Oh, yes. That is, I mean, when the man, Mr. Wale Adu, who has now become the Minister of Finance, was in the Senate for screening, what did he say? That the value should be around, around 700 naira. How did he come to that conclusion? Oh, yes.
Because there are fundamentals that guide that. And one of it will be your forex base, your foreign exchange base. We know that our forex base has been severely depleted in recent times. We do remember...
Depleted for what? To satisfy the stupid demands of the elite. For me as a lawyer, to buy wig and gown from England. For me as a lawyer, to buy, other materials from England. Why? The majority of our people have nothing to do with these dollars.
But this is the reality.
No, it's not. No.
This is the reality. This has been the reality that for many, many years, our tastes have not been within what it is that we can produce.
Those tastes
yes.
can be controlled now. For instance, there's a president in Tanzania, President John, my God, he died during the COVID-19 crisis. He said, for the Tanzanians, for now, all foreign conferences shall be attended by our embassy officials who will send reports to the country. Because we're wasting money on Estaco. Now, a country can do that. In 2020, nobody went to Mecca or Jerusalem because of COVID-19 crisis, pandemic. So I can now say as a government, for the next 4 years, because of the economic crisis, if you have been to Mecca before, you will not be allowed to travel to Mecca. If you have been to Jerusalem, you will not be allowed to go to Jerusalem. Let others, because you cannot, in Nigeria, it's difficult to ban, people going for holy pilgrimage. We can now say, any school that operates in Nigeria, we're going to charge you, we're going to arraign you in court, the management, if you charge $. For anybody who wants to go for a conference abroad, can the government find out how relevant that conference is to the economy?
Any government official or private individual?
Oh yes, government official.
Okay.
And for private individuals, what do you want to import into the country that cannot be produced locally? So this is how you control this rat race for dollars. So you must take control of your economy. So this is it. But the government is not prepared. Why must you allow less than 1% of the population, politicians, professionals, and others, to destroy the economy? Because they are looking for dollars. You want to trade in dollars. You want to sell properties in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and dollars in dollars. It's illegal. You want to collect rents in dollars. It's illegal. We know the schools that are charging dollars. It's illegal. So once you strengthen the Naira, this crisis will be minimized. Then we can then ask ourselves, as a government, National Economic Council, an advisory body, the governors can advise the president. Sorry, sir, we have discovered that we're in trouble. The money we are giving out will not mean much because people are changing money to dollar.
Why are we not seeing several suits against those institutions, if that's the case then?
No, we're in court.
All over the
we're in court. The central bank has no answer. We're in court.
What about, I mean, and some people will say, while this will be laudable, a lot of people will say, but it doesn't have to start from government. Because I know that even when you say, government, why are you people not buying locally produced cars or locally assembled cars? And the question will the companies that are here, the few companies that are assembling the vehicle, would they be able to meet the demand?
No, that's a different matter. We can then create exceptions until we're able to meet the demand. For instance, the Buhari regime in 2020 announced that because of the exchange problem, we can no longer continue to subsidize fuel importation. What we are going to do is to encourage vehicles to be converted from PMS run vehicles to CNG. And 250 billion naira was earmarked by the central bank for that. Not a kobo was released for that purpose. So I wrote to the central bank recently, under the Freedom of Information Act, what has happened to the 250 billion naira?
What did you find out?
No, they say, we are looking at our records. Of course, no answer.
Till date?
So we're in court.
Oh.
So these are the issues the government will have to address. Around Benin Delta, around Edo Delta area, not less than 10,000 vehicles are run on CNG. Because it's eco-friendly, it's cheaper. So why is the government not adopting that? Electric vehicles. Zimbabwe. The Chinese were mining lithium illegally. That country said, sorry, exportation of lithium is illegal. No, the Chinese are building a factory in Zimbabwe, a $300 million factory. Now, we have lithium in abundance here. And it's been taken away. I mean, just yesterday, a friend was asking me, how can this government appoint Dele Alake as Minister of Petroleum? I mean, solid mineral. It should be information. I said, do you know the implication? That annually, $9 billion worth of gold is illegally taken out of Nigeria. With according to a former minister, Dr. Oga, through private jets.
Private jet.
Oh, yes.
$9 billion.
Yes, $9 billion. Gold alone.
They've been able to put a value to it.
Oh, yes. You can Google. I'm not talking of lithium. I'm not talking of other resources. I just handle a case in Osun State. You know, under our Minerals Act, if you are mining gold or any mineral, solid mineral, in my farm, in my land, what does the law provide? 100 naira per acre. An old law. So you are moving me out of my land. I'm a farmer. This is where I farm. But you said, no, get out of the place. The government has taken over your land. We'll pay you 100 naira. So they were going to give our client 150,000 naira. And they came to us, what are we going to do with this? I said, don't worry, we'll go to court. So we went to court in Federal High Court Osogbo. Oh, the other lawyer said, no, this is what the law provides. I said, no. Section 44(1) of the Constitution says, if you take over my land for public purpose, I will prepare a fair and just compensation. The law, the judge, this man awarded 250 million naira to our client. But you know what I discovered? Unfortunately, after the case, unfortunately for the company, we discovered that in 5 years, that company will make a profit of $500 million. No tax. Do you run a country that way? And you are asking the poor, tighten your belt. Do you run a country that way? That one company will make $500 million in our country.
Why would there be no tax on it?
No, the government wants to encourage, people to invest in that area. The company will invest only $245 million. And a foreign company, a Canadian company, through a Nigerian, they say $1 or whatever they call themselves. And that's all. Meanwhile, the state government, the Osun state government, is entitled to 13%
derivation.
So this is the problem.
All right, let's bring in our colleagues from Lagos.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Well, Mr. Falana, one of the first questions that naturally comes to mind, when you speak about dollarization, and you talked about the fact that people generally seem to prefer imported things. It's not something that is new. I remember reading an article or a comment by Chief Obafemi Awolowo, which he delivered, a lecture he delivered in London, I think, before the independence, saying that politicians of his day preferred imported stuff to locally made ones. Now, we are still talking about the same thing now, more than 60 years after independence of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I'm wondering, is there a way that you think we can navigate that situation so that we don't have that same situation on our hands in another 10 years from now? A situation where we tend to prefer imported stuff to locally made ones. There are those who also say, unless we produce at home and export, the Naira couldn't get any stronger. So how do you think we can do that?
Oh, you see, I've just referred to the relevant provisions of the Central Bank Act and also the Constitution, Section 16, has imposed a duty on the government to run the economy in the interest of Nigeria, not in the interest of IMF and World Bank. So if you destroy your currency...
No, Mr. Falana, I'm not sure you understand the question that I'm putting to you. Just 1 second, Mr. Falana, if you can hear me. The point is about the political class, about our own habits. Let me also make that a little worse. The previous governments, I think it was Chief Audwogbe sitting before a panel of the National Assembly saying, Nigerians import as peasant issues as pizza from the UK into Nigeria to eat one meal. So in that way, how do we discourage importation and prefer locally made stuff so we can strengthen the Nigerian currency?
The government is under a legal obligation to control the economy in a way that the happiness of Nigerians, the prosperity of Nigerians will be guaranteed. Therefore, the duty of the government is to ban goods that are produced in Nigeria and also to challenge companies like Zimbabwe has just done. If you want to take lithium out of this country, set up a factory in Nigeria. If you want to sell handsets in Nigeria, set up a company in Nigeria to produce handsets. So unless you are ready to do that, we produce food, particularly foods that are wasted. We can now say we are producing cocoa. And we are telling Ghana, Nigeria, and Ivory Coast, the country that produce cocoa, leading producer of cocoa, insist on establishment of chocolate factories in your country. And if these foreign countries and companies are not willing to do that, simply on your own, set up factories to produce chocolate and export. So the government, that is the duty of the government. Not, I mean, when a minister goes to the National Assembly, oh, these are the problems. So when you go to the Federal Executive Council, what do you discuss? Governors gather in Abuja to say, oh, we want to distribute money. How is the money generated?
So essentially, Mr.
After
Falana,
distributing 5 billion,
essentially, Mr. Falana,
what happens?
Yeah, just 1 second.
When you are not addressing the problem.
Essentially, you are saying that we can legislate our way, we can legislate our attitudes. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not talking of we can. We are required to do that.
To legislate
to say
to legislate our
we shall
appetites.
no longer export cocoa beans. We shall now establish factories that will produce chocolate, factories that will produce tea. So, and this is what some countries are doing. Again, let me tell you, Kenya recently went to Saudi Arabia. We are sorry. We are spending $500 million to import fuel into the country. We can no longer afford it. Can you please assist us. Okay, what do you want? We want to pay shillings for the importation of fuel. Okay, no problem. You pay shillings, and we shall use the shillings to import goods from your country to Saudi Arabia. And we have suggested to Nigeria, we have a closer relationship because of religion. So talk to the Saudis. We are having problem raising dollars to import fuel because our refineries are comatose. What can you do for us? In the interim, two, there are in Nigeria today, and the government has a duty to help to fast track the process of fixing our refineries. And then we have invested in the Dangote refinery, which was commissioned last year. But what has happened to that refinery? The NNPC took a loan of $2.7 billion to invest in Dangote refinery. The land was given free by Lagos. They call it the place free economic zone. Not a dime was paid for the land. The entire machinery imported to the country. Official rate. To import the vehicle, the machinery. Duty free. And then we are told, oh, your contribution to this refinery is 20%. Who quantified our contribution? So these are the issues this government will have to address. There's a body they call AMCON. Even EFCC. These guys will take over an organization. A growing concern, they would then go and put in a red ink EFCC investigation. So, employees are sacked. Nobody wants to do any business with that company. I ask you, what kind of economy is this? It can only be a kalu economic system. I know a system. I know a company. We have problems now flying in the country. The aviation company, industry is in crisis. These guys, AMCON, they took over ARIC 5 years ago, 2017. ARIC at that time has 70 aircraft. Some banks had an arrangement with ARIC. Oh, you are owing us? Okay. At the counter, passengers who pay to us, we deduct our share of whatever they pay. We'll give you the rest to run the airline. AMCON took over, appointed a senior advocate who has no other than traveling through the air. He had never had any experience with running an airline. So he said, you be our receiverman. The man knew he was running the place at ground. He said, no, I'm resigning. So they appointed somebody. No court order. The man took over. So they decided to take loans. Decided to destroy the company. 2 aircraft were cannibalized. One valued at $37 million. Another one, $42 million, were cannibalized and sold by a government, a legitimate government. Today, we now discovered ARIC that has 70 aircraft now has only 2. So we wrote a petition to the FCC. These guys who took over ARIC had committed fraud to the tune of $120 billion. EFCC has confirmed and even said, we have confirmed more. Now, what does the government do? The new government says, the president said no. So what is our business as a government with managing debts? The banks are rich enough to sue those who are owing them.
Well, Mr. Falana, Mr. Falana,
the government has decided, the president has decided, we are going to abolish AMCON.
Yeah, Mr. Falana, your argument in that regard.
So we must look at the way the economy is run in all ramifications. But what is going on?
Indeed, Mr. Falana, your argument in that regard is also a subject of interest.
This is the problem of the country.
Yes, that's also a subject of interest before the APC Professionals Forum. I recall their chairman, Mr. Issa Yuguda, briefing and saying that perhaps the president will also look into that. But your proposal for the crude oil to be sold in Naira rather than dollar is a continuing subject of debate. And I want you to, explain a bit more, particularly when we look at other countries of the world that are trading, that are, crude oil producers. They're also considering other currency rather than the dollar. But what are the politics of international diplomacy that could, be a stumbling block for Nigeria to be unable, to stand up to, the crude oil community, the OPEC and the like, to be unable to counter the dollar?
Thank you. Thank you. Section 19 of the Nigerian Constitution, 19 subsection E, provides that Nigeria shall promote a new international economic order. Article 21 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights Act provides that the economy of Nigeria, the resources of Nigeria shall be mined, shall be exploited in the interest of the Nigerian people. Now, I'm not saying anything alien. Some countries now, and that is the challenge of the BRICS, Brazil, India, Russia, China, and South Africa. That is what they are saying. We want to trade among ourselves inter se in our national currencies. And they're already doing that. 5 years ago, 2018, the Chinese government sat down with Nigeria. The Central Bank of China, People's Republic of China, and the Central Bank in Abuja said, Nigeria, you are buying a lot of goods from China. Can you pay Naira in China? Why for our own business here, we pay yuan? They call it currency swap. And they bought goods at about $2.5 billion. Was they are marked for that currency swap. Again, recently, I had to write to the Central Bank, because those traders who are going to China are still looking for dollars. What has happened to this arrangement? Because I confirm, the IMF and World Bank told Mr. Emefiele, former suspended governor, don't allow this to succeed. So I wrote to the Central Bank, under the Freedom of Information Act, please, what has happened to the currency swap between Nigeria and China? We should have removed the burden on Nigerians looking for dollars. Central Bank has just written a letter to me. Oh, this process is still on. It's going to be renewed next year. But traders are not aware. So we are going to, through the media, let Nigerians know this process is on. What these governors, what our governors through the National Economic Council should be doing is to say, can we have this currency swap with countries that are ready to trade with Nigeria in Naira? Let us have faith in our own national currency instead of looking for dollars. I've just told you, we were in Benin Republic last week. We didn't have to look for dollars.
Well, Mr. Falana, there's another matter I'd like you to...
Or Naira.
There's another matter I'd like you to weigh in on very quickly. The NNPCL Limited recently, just days ago, secured a 3 billion Naira emergency crude repayment loan from Afrexim Bank as an intervention. Yes. Being a privatized company, is it within the purview of the NNPC to make that kind of intervention?
No. The Central Bank has not been made to realize. And now I hope, now that we have an Attorney General who will be inaugurated on Monday, is the NNPC Limited, a limited liability company. The government will have to be told the NNPC Limited is no longer a parastater. So it has, I've looked at the Petroleum Industry Act. I cannot find any provision that allows the NNPC to take a loan for the central bank? No. No. So the illegality must stop in the interests of the country. And you know what they did? Mr. Emefiele, with the approval of President Buhari, without the approval of the National Assembly, too close from GMB and others to show up the Naira because they were looking for dollars to the tune of about $7.5 billion, which has never been added to the loans of Nigeria. No, the Debt Management Office is not aware. The National Assembly is not aware that loans were being taken in 2006. I think that was when the governor of Anambra State now, Professor Charles Soludo, right? The central bank yanked off $7 billion from our foreign reserves and distributed to 14 banks. Again, I had to write to EFCC, please recover this fund. Oh, EFCC was afraid. So I wrote to another agency of the government, Presidential Panel on Asset Recovery. So they wrote to the central bank, oh yes, it is true, but we have forgiven the bank that took the money. I beg your pardon. Where have you got the power? So please, we now have to let the government know that our country is in crisis.
All right.
How can we save the Naira? All right,
we'll
dollarization.
Okay, we'll be winding down now, but I see some are raising issues here, which looks like a joke. He says that Bode says he agrees with you, but we need to also check this, which we will. He says this morning, flight tickets from Akure to Abuja are listed in dollars.
Yes.
He says, please check. Well, we will check this. How can this be from Akure to Abuja?
No, that's not possible. I travel that route. If anybody wants to take dollars from it, some of the foreign airlines wanted to try it last year, and we told them it's illegal. Thou shall not do that, and they had to stop. So you cannot do that. So nobody can.
So if it's been done, it's done illegally.
Illegally, any transaction in Nigeria shall be in Naira,
and people must insist.
Yeah.
When
yes.
There, you have to insist.
Well, just talking about the effect of, some of these policies, we know, as you said that a lot of the palliatives that are being, while they might be good ideas, they come to naught when you look at what is happening in exchange to the dollars. And part of what we've seen is also affecting the welfare of people. I think it was just yesterday or 2 days ago that a colleague of yours, Mr. Muiz Banere, highlighted the plight of magistrates in Lagos State. And
not just Lagos.
Yeah.
A magistrate is forced to take a public transport, and a passenger will say, oh, magistrate, I've paid your money. Don't worry to pay the conductor. So, and you are going to appear before the magistrate. The magistrate is living in a house, rented apartment, and rents are increased because of the reverberating effect of the increase in pump price of petrol. So there are problems. But you see, the government is now being forced to abandon its neoliberal policies. We told them. So the government is now forced to say, we are no longer going to increase fuel price.
Yeah.
We are no longer going to do this and do that. Now, that means the government is now beginning to realize that their IMF-sponsored program, World Bank-sponsored program will pauperize the country and increase poverty.
Well, we do not know how long they're putting that on hold for, because I know that they're also in talks with the NLC. But I think for a number of people, whilst people are saying, oh, people need to look for alternative sources of income, we do know that there are categories of people that cannot look for alternative sources of income. A lot of them will include these people in this case are magistrates, judges, people in the security sector, unless, of course, their spouses are able to also, and that's for those who are married. What about those who are not, or those who do not even have any intention of getting married? So do you think that there ought to be special consideration for this number of people? I do know that Mr. Muiz Banire's article was, quite comprehensive in terms of what needs to be done with the situation of magistrates in Lagos. We saw in Cross River magistrates protesting. We sincerely hope that it doesn't get there. But do you think that there needs to be special consideration for this cadre of people who cannot do any other sort of business because of the nature of their work?
You are talking of the elite. Those who at the end of the month will earn some money. 133 million Nigerians are living below starvation wage, according to the government. Now that number has increased phenomenally. So what I am saying, as long as you continue to dollarize the economy, whatever you pay, and I've made this, I've had discussion with the leaders of the trade unions, NSA and trade unions, TUC. Whatever you ask as minimum wage will be destroyed by dollarization. So in your struggle, you must also ask that the Naira be respected by the government, that the Naira be saved by the government. Because, I take out my car and I bought fuel. In a week's time, there is a problem in the international market. The price of oil goes up. The government will be compelled. Sorry, this is the landing cost. You will have to increase to 750 Naira. It was going to that stage, but the government has to say for now, please, NNPC, what can we do very quickly? NNPC said, we're going to take a loan of $3 billion. For what? To show up the dollar. And for what are we using the dollar for? For the elite to import goods from abroad. It's not about the country. And we are saying this government must sit down. The people in Abuja, the Federal Executive Council, the governors through the National Economic Council, what are the goods that are produced in Nigeria for which we do not need to look for dollars? Can we stop people from collecting rents in dollars, selling properties in dollars, people going to Mecca and Jerusalem on a regular basis, goods you are bringing from abroad, useless trips. Let me tell you one before we wind up. I was coming from Western Sahara a few years ago. And we were in the Nigerian house in Nigeria. So I liked the house. And when the ambassador was sending us out, said, when did Nigeria build this house? He said, no, it's a rented apartment. He said, Mr. Ambassador, I beg your pardon. We had our first embassy in that country in 1962. So we have been paying rents since 1962. And how much do we pay for this house annually? $800,000. In 10 years, that's $8 million. And that's what happened. Majority of our embassies. So we now have a situation where the government will have to find out what are we using dollars for. Nimasa has just bought 3 properties in England under this regime.
For what?
For what? Not just to take out dollars. So please, let us run this country in the interest of our people. We are not a poor country, but the government is managed in a way that poverty is on the ascendancy.
That speaks to the inefficiency that the government spoke about not long ago. So hopefully they will probably embark on that Save the Naira and stop the inefficiency campaign so that we can show up the value of the currency. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
All right. Well, back in just a moment. Stay on with us.